Okay. Looks like we got Josh here. Hey, Josh, how's it going?
Good, how you doing?
Good. Let's see if I can figure out this whole control panel while I'm over here. All right. This looks like so far you and me, so that's good. I think I am recording. Did you get a notification about recording?
You know what? I'm not sure. It may have when I first came in.
Okay. Yeah, it's showing up on mine. I'm not sure if you can see this little green bar at the top of my screen here. But
no, I cannot.
it says I am screen sharing and it says I am recording on this computer.
Okay.
So I think we're good.
Yeah.
I'm guessing right now, just right now, it's just you and me, but I'm assuming we are going to start seeing people pop in here in a few minutes. So
yeah, I hope so. If not, I'm going to start assigning people.
Yeah. I'm not here. Oh, okay. 30 people, it says, are at the moment unassigned. So
okay.
I'm sure they are taking a look at their list of options and figuring out where they want to go. So
yeah.
We were talking a little bit earlier with the team internally, and John is up there at Frankfurt Road, and he was like, all the options we have up there work well, and they fit in they fit in our right away. So like, I think I'm going to get pretty bored because I think people are going to stop in for 2 seconds and bounce away. I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm not going to have that problem.
It was funny. We were joking today about, the right of way at Pleasant Drive and the right of way at Old Broadhead at Frankfurt. And we would kill to see that kind of right of way anywhere else in our region, So
That's
take
right.
full advantage of the right of way we have at some of these locations. So
yeah, it's I definitely, I think we've said in our own project team more than once, like if 5 points were easy, it would have been done by now. So.
Absolutely, exactly. You're exactly right, and it's kind of what we heard from the commissioners today too. It's like 5 points to 4 points. How do we get it down to that?
So
I think we can get there.
Looks like we got a few people starting to trickle in here, so I'll probably give it just another minute or two. The plan, as far as I know, for anybody that's listening in, Josh as well, is we have, each room has a little mini presentation with some graphics here that we're going to go through, but ideally I'm just going to sort of cycle through this slide and this discussion, and if you come and go and you miss some of it, feel free to ask a question, or sooner or later, I think your host will probably just revisit whatever slides they might have had. So,
and also, like I mentioned earlier, we'll have these posted on the website as well. So if you do miss something, please feel free to visit the website as well, and you can see the recorded presentation as well. So,
correct. Now, one other thing I want. Okay, good. I'm going to start it now. There is a chat box here, everyone gets here. I'm going to share for the first time in here. There is a link. As Jenny said just a minute ago, each of the breakout rooms has a individual survey, which will have questions specific to, in this case, 5 points in this southern area. So feel free to click that link. You can take it live. What I might even suggest is maybe have some thoughts in mind, but these surveys will be available for, Josh, I believe you said through next Friday.
Yeah, yep. We'll have them available the next Friday. Yep.
So if you have thoughts right now, knee-jerk reactions, by all means, feel free to share them. But otherwise, feel free to take your time with it. Maybe do some homework for you. Take it home with you, thinking about it, and fill it out sort of at your leisure. I'll share that survey just periodically, every probably 5 minutes or so, just so people can see it that maybe joined us a little bit late. But I'm going to go ahead and get started because it looks like, based off of the homeroom, most everybody has been assigned out. So welcome everybody that is on this call. You're in the 5 points area breakout room, which goes from just north of 5 points. You can see actually on the screen here near T-Line Drive. 5 points is, of course, the kind of the big hitter here in this area, but we do continue south towards the Allegheny County line, past Yale Drive and some other intersections. So This map shows you in this area pretty much all of the improvements that we have considered, come up with. We do have a few more slides for 5 points that we'll come back to. I'm just going to run from north to south, and then we'll revisit 5 points here in just a second. So starting north of 5 points, T-Line Drive is right there near the windmill. And the biggest issues that we found there are people trying to turn left into T-Line Drive often run into an issue where there's not enough brakes in traffic. And what ends up happening is we form these big queues, people waiting behind one car trying to turn left. So an improvement in that area could be adding a southbound left turn lane. It may not necessarily help the people that are trying to turn from T-Line Drive onto Broadhead Road, but it at least clears up some of that congestion on the north-south corridor. Another one is if you are sitting on T-Line Drive and you are trying to make that turn onto Broadhead Road, well, particularly if you are looking towards the south, towards where it says Robin here on my screen, I think there's a big sign sitting out there that pretty much completely obstructs your vision. So you either need to just take a leap of faith and just go and hope nobody's coming, or creep so far forward that you end up basically in traffic before you can see what you're doing. So I think we would investigate some clear sight triangles, which would hopefully just be moving that sign a little bit further away from the road to clear that up. So those are some of the options we have suggested at T-Line Drive. As I said, we'll circle back around in just a minute to some of the options at 5 points. Another thing to consider, you can see this little green box on the side, as we talked earlier about the multimodal features. Now, we can't really do too much about the truck traffic, some of the volumes in this area, but to sort of alleviate that congestion for those that want to use bicycles, the thought process is, well, what if we provide some additional bicycle connections, specifically in this area, that are off of Broadhead Road? And so the through Laurel and Gringo is definitely part of it, but Heights Road is a pretty good candidate to, if you specifically are trying to head from this area over towards the river, perhaps some improvements for bicycle, I'll say accommodations along Heights Road would get you over towards the river, but also keep you off of Laurel Road, where we know there are trucks, there's speed, there's a lot of cars. So as far as heading north and south, there unfortunately aren't a ton of parallel route options south of 5 points. There are a lot of these maybe not cul-de-sacs the right word, but these almost closed loops of the neighborhoods to the south. What we do have the opportunity though in this area is, again, considering Heights Road, at least in this stretch, which we know gets very busy between T-Line Drive down to 5 points, there is this new connection that is actually not shown up on the map, but right in here is going to be connected. And so some of these connections right through this neighborhood could be used for bicycles to, again, just avoid some of the vehicular issues that are on 5 points and some of that kind of nasty congestion at times. Moving further south, the biggest issue that we ran into in investigating this area was actually sight distance. And so you can actually see, here is Ohio View. It is a very steep hill on either side along a curve, and you basically cannot see. Down at Yale and Morrow, and then even down at Bucktown Road, it's just, you can see how windy this road gets, and sight distance becomes an issue. And so a lot of the things that we would consider there are not dissimilar from T-Line Drive, but in this case, we would also add in some advanced intersection warning signs, letting people know, hey, there's an intersection ahead, someone may be coming out, please monitor your speed. Additional pavement markings. We did notice there were a handful of, I'll say this, when you are driving on this road and you get south of 5 points at night, given how windy it is, the street lighting may not be the best. I noticed that we called it our nighttime retro reflectivity, gets very dim. There's not a ton of lighting. The signing and pavement markings are kind of dim and faded. So I think we would want to investigate that as options as well. And then Another example down at Bucktown Road is actually not dissimilar from Ohio View in that there's a big hill and it's on a curve and you just can't see very well. So trying to investigate perhaps some sight distance issues there would be what we would want to look at. So that covers the whole region in general. Let's hop into 5 points specifically. And before I do that, I'm just going to once more in the chat box, I am sharing the survey for this room. So again, please, at your leisure, take that survey and provide us any feedback you think. So let's move on into 5 points. So what you see on your screen right now is what is out there today. Everyone's favorite intersection in the area, it's 5 points. This is what we would call the no build, which is, if you recall, Scott did mention, is an option. The issues that are out there today are the fact that both, or I should say all of Gringo Road coming eastbound, Laurel Road coming westbound, and Heights Road coming westbound have split phases. What that means is they get their own dedicated green time when no one else in the corridor in this intersection gets to go. And that just leads to a lot of delay because there's no way to get what we call concurrent movements. Compare that with northbound and southbound on Broadhead Road. When their light turns green, everybody can go. The issue you do run into, though, is without dedicated turn lanes, one turning car trying to make a left turn can just get stuck, and then everyone behind them gets stuck. But the split phasing is a big problem. We also ran into an issue where Gringo Road in particular has a pretty heavy skew right as you get to the intersection, compounded by the fact that there is a really solid uphill grade, particularly right at the intersection. It gets really steep very quickly, so you're going up and turning at the same time. Nobody likes it. What happens with all of this stuff is everybody has a lot of delay. And another significantly compounding factor is the fact that this is one of the main truck routes from the river and a lot of the industrial areas over there over to 376. Trucks going across the top of the intersection have to navigate that sort of low clearance as they're going over the crest of the hill of Broadhead. The benefits, I will say, of this alternative is that it is, the best way I could probably phrase it is it doesn't cost much to fix. Realistically, you don't need to do much to leave it as is. We would probably, even in the no build, consider some additional signing and some clearances, and maybe even look into just trying to make the signal optimize a little bit better. But as you can see in the bottom left there, if it is more or less left as is, the level of service, which is how well it works, it's an F, which imagine a letter grade from a report card. A is excellent, F is failing. This would be a failing intersection if we left it as is. Truthfully, it's failing today, but it's an option. So now option 2, and we tried to sort these from least impactful, least costly to most impactful and most costly. This would be, as maybe you heard Josh joking when we were here just a minute ago, is how do you convert 5 points to 4 points? Well, the easiest and only way to do that is you have to get rid of one of the legs. As we said a minute ago, Route 151, which is Gringo Road and Laurel Road, is one of the main, if not the main movement of trucks from the river to 376. And Broadhead Road is the main northbound, southbound road that is not 376. Unfortunately, that leaves the last candidate, which is Heights Road, as the possible closure location. If we went this route, and you can see we have our little, cul-de-sac here for Heights Road. It does convert it to 4 points, and we could re-optimize the signal with only the 4 phases. It still does not require any additional right-of-way, no property impacts, no widening or anything like that. We could make it a little bit safer with the pedestrian options that currently, particularly through Laurel and Heights, have a very tough time trying to stay safe. The impacts come from the fact that, well, what if you're trying to get to any of these homes that live on this backside here? You would still have some access to CVS and some access to McDonald's, but it wouldn't be as much. The impacts there could be impacted. So What we proposed here is if that had to be closed to convert it to 4 points, you can see those two colors of dotted lines. And it's basically, how do you get from 5 points over to this stretch of Heights Road? The best option that we could find without having to, again, looking into right-of-way, property acquisitions, et cetera, is trying to utilize existing connections, particularly along School Street. Now, if we went this route, we talked a minute ago about right-of-way impacts and things like that. School Street would most likely need to have some upgrades done to it, because right now it takes an almost 90-degree turn right here. I think we would probably need to consider softening this corner, but we won't know for sure until we get, to the next step of design and all that stuff. But as you can see, you come from 5 points down Broadhead, make your right on School Street, and then circle back the other way. Conversely, if you are at some of these locations and you're trying to get out, you just reverse course, come down Heights, down School Street, down to this intersection, and then you can make your turns out as needed. The problem with all of that is, even with those things, it's still a level of service E. So it's better than an F. It's better than doing nothing as far as operations are concerned. But that's a reasonable amount of impacts for not a ton of operational improvements. So bear that in mind as you are weighing your options. So here is option 3 in this area. And as I said, we're starting to get a little more impactful now. This is the same idea in that we've converted 5 points to 4 points. But another thing we really wanted to pay attention to was, again, remember how bad that skew and the vertical, crest over the top of the hill is? Well, realigning Route 151, Gringo Road and Laurel Road, helps alleviate some of those issues. You still have some vertical issues. You're never going to get rid of them because you just have to get up to the top of the hill where Broadhead is. But you can smooth some of that out with Gringo and Laurel being transitioned to the south. This specific location seeks to avoid as many properties as it can, but you can still see, particularly in this area right here, there are some properties that are going to be impacted. Additionally, while this would remain open, these are now cul-de-sacs on either side. So you could still get to the CVS, the Sunoco, and in these properties over here. But, if you make the wrong turn, you're going to have to turn around and come back out. Another benefit of this is this option leaves Heights Road open. So it stays where it is today. You can get in and out to go to McDonald's or CVS or any of those residences back in that area. Now completely separated from, what's now called the 4 points intersection. Another benefit to moving it further south is it gives the option to widen with some additional turn lanes. If you can see here, Southbound now has 3 lanes, whereas today it has 1. Northbound is 2, today it's 1. So it gives the option to widen. As a result, it goes from, in the previous 4 points option, a level of service E, to now it's operating at a level of service B or C, which truthfully is about as good as you're going to get anywhere, not just at 5 points, but looking 25 years in the future, that is pretty excellent level of service, all things considered. But the flip side is it is impactful. One more option to go. This is perhaps the most innovative, but it seeks to avoid some of the issues that were noted in the last option. So this is a quadrant roadway in which Broadhead Road is actually separated in grade from Route 151. So Route 151, Laurel Road and Gringo Road would stay where they are today. And this would be a tunnel, an underpass, whatever you want to call it, right here under Broadhead Road. To get down to 151, there are 2 new signals, one here on Broadhead Road, the T intersection. You go through this quadrant roadway, and then here's another signal on Laurel Road. If you wanted to avoid this movement, specifically if you're coming southbound on Broadhead, there is this southbound to westbound slip ramp that you could take. What this option does is it puts this intersection in about the same spot as the last option, but you can see that now it is set up as a quadrant roadway. These residences on the west side of Broadhead Road are no longer impacted. there might be some minor taking of, some of the property here along the front. But again, we wouldn't know for sure until we get to the next level of, really specific design. The flip side, however, is in the last option, we were basically able to avoid this whole stretch of businesses here, the vet clinic and everything. With this option, particularly with this slip ramp, you can see this property here is pretty heavily impacted. So similar to the last option, the 4-leg option, relocating this to where it is shown increases the level of service from an F. This intersection here would operate at a level of service C in both peak hours. This intersection on Laurel Road would operate at a B in both peak hours. So, and again, lastly, Heights Road does stay open as full access. So no closures, no reroutes up to School Street or anything like that. But as you can see, much more impacts and I'll say costs associated as well with tunneling under Broadhead Road. So those are all of our options. Once more, since some people have joined us a few times in here, I'm going to share that link one more time for the survey for this room. I will, at this point, stop talking and get in my spiel, and let me hear what questions you have on the options here. And I can scroll back through any of these slides if you have anything specific in mind. Not hearing any comments, I'm going to basically probably just go back to the top and just take it from the beginning. So feel free at this point, anybody here, feel free to interrupt me. You can unmute yourself and ask your question just over the phone. The chat box is there. So if anybody has a question, doesn't feel like talking, feel free to send me the chat and I can try to answer it that way. Okay, so for anyone that's just joining us, I'm going to take it from the top. This is the 5 Points area breakout room. We are covering from just south of the Hopewell Shopping Center up near T-Line Drive down to the Allegheny County line. And it includes the big hitter in this area is 5 Points. But there's several other intersections in the area that are impacted that we want to take a look at as well. So starting from the north, and this was one of the intersections that was not originally part of our 22 sort of focal intersections prior to starting the study, but became pretty apparent that it needs some attention, is T-Line Drive, which is just north here of 5 Points over there near the windmill. The biggest issue, 2 issues I should say, that we found there is first, traffic that is trying to make a southbound left turn into T-Line Drive often runs into issues where there just are not enough gaps in the northbound traffic to turn in. And what happens pretty much up and down Broadhead Road whenever one car gets stuck trying to turn is within a matter of, honestly, seconds, you can have a pretty lengthy queue of people behind them stuck, just waiting for one car to get a chance to turn. So a possible solution to that would be to install a short southbound left turn lane. That way it helps the people just move out of the way, and then everybody else who does not trying to go to T-Line Drive can just move on right past them. That doesn't necessarily help the people turning out of T-Line Drive onto Broadhead Road, but it does help clear up some of that congestion northbound, southbound on Broadhead Road. So that helps the main people at on Broadhead. But when you are leaving T-Line, there is an additional factor, which is a site triangle impact. If you are at the intersection heading westbound toward Broadhead Road and you look to the left down towards 5 Points, there is a pretty sizable sign right in your line of sight. And what that means is either you need to sit really far back from the stop sign, make sure nobody's coming, and then try to just, punch it to pull on out from further back than you should, so to speak. Hope nobody's coming in general and just go, or pull so far forward that the front of your car is basically in traffic by the time you can see what's going on. So we would want to probably investigate some clear sight triangles there, which would realistically just involve moving that sign a little bit, making it easier to see when you are at that stop sign, trying to turn onto Broadhead Road. I'm going to circle back around to 5 points, but before I move further south, I did want to point out, we know from feedback that there are a lot of bicyclists in the area that want to, move up and down and through the area reasonably safely. We looked into some possible, I'll say, off Broadhead connections to perhaps give them, the bicyclists, the option to move, I'll say, parallel to Broadhead. So they can still go, up and down, but not necessarily be dealing with traffic right on top of them with, shoulder issues and not much, I'll say, infrastructure dedicated for the bicyclists. So some of these connections that we considered are along Heights Road. So the largest east-west roadway in this area is Route 151, which is Gringo Road and then Laurel Road down towards the river. The problem with those two roadways is it's actually the chief freight connection. A lot of trucks use it to get from the industrial areas closer to the river over to I-376. And so you have bicyclists that don't have a ton of many other options if they are trying to go east and west. Well, another possible connection would be along Heights Road. Heights Road does head all the way over to the river as well. So that would get some people off of, specifically Laurel, and let them take sort of an off their main route, parallel path to get to their destination. Similarly, there are not very many north and southbound parallel routes in this area that you could take to maybe travel in that direction, but not be on Broadhead itself. One example of an parallel route in this area specifically is this little stretch of road, which looks like it goes down Crease. There's a minor gap in the map here. This new roadway up to T-Line Drive is actually going to be connected. So you could take this, come down Heights, move up Crease, take it this way over to T-Line. It wouldn't get you the whole way from, Allegheny County all the way up to Monaca, but at least for this small stretch where we do know there's a lot of vehicular traffic, a lot of congestion, it could give bicyclists the opportunity to head the direction they want without being right on Broadhead Road. Pushing south, the biggest issue that we noticed is after you get south of 5 Points, the roadway, I should say, becomes very windy, up, down, left, right. And especially at night, it becomes very dark. There's not a lot of lighting, a lot of things, the nighttime retro reflectivity, as we call it, it's just, you can't see very well out there. So at these intersections that we have highlighted here, we would look into a lot of sight distance improvements. Some of them may be as simple as advanced intersection warning signs and pavement markings, just giving people the heads up that, hey, there is an intersection coming up around the bend that maybe you can't see, but at least gives people enough thought to consider, hey, maybe let's slow down just a little bit. We would look into nighttime retroreflectivity, so more reflective pavement markings, some additional lighting, perhaps on some of these fairly sharp curves, maybe some additional reflective guide rails or chevron signs, things like that. Down at Boptown is an example where you have a hill on either side of you. You're coming down the hill and you're on a curve. So that would be an example where we would actually try to investigate clearing out some of the sight triangles so that you can see better if there's any traffic coming before you pull out. So these are some of the, I'll say, off 5 Points considerations that we looked into here. And I'm going to share once more for anybody that was not in the chat box earlier. There we go. The link to our survey for this room. You can provide your feedback on any of those. I'm going to jump into now 5 Points and discuss some of the alternatives we have come up with there specifically. So as Scott was saying in the first main presentation, the no build is an option. It doesn't work great, but truthfully, it is the least costly and the least impactful of any option. Some of the issues that are out there today. First, it is a signal with 3 split phases. What a split phase means is whenever a direction is split phase and gets its green, nobody else can go. And that applies to eastbound Gringo Road, westbound Laurel Road, and westbound Heights Road. Each of those approaches gets their own dedicated green time and nobody else gets to go. What ends up happening is every approach has excessive delay as a result. Compare that to northbound and southbound Broadhead, where those 2 sets of traffic can go concurrently. The only real issue comes in is, what if one car again wants to make that southbound left or northbound left that we talked about, and they get stuck because there's no gaps? So that is, again, just another issue. But at a minimum, that northbound and southbound direction are going at the same time, which the other directions don't have. Beyond the traffic signal, there are some, I'll say, geographic issues. The first one being the fact that both sides of Route 151, Gringo Road and Laurel Road, have to climb up a hill to get to the signal. And Gringo in particular not only has to climb a hill, but it's also dealing with a pretty hefty skew at the last possible minute. So those 2 are sort of some compounding geographic features. And again, chiefly on Gringo and Laurel, that is a very heavy freight connection. So you have trucks that are trying to struggle up these hills. They're trying to struggle up these hills and get across the top of the intersection while their light is green. Sometimes you see trucks run the light, et cetera. So truck operations are, a significant component here. When we talk about how well an intersection works, we give it a letter grade. A is good, great, in fact. F is failing. And truthfully, if we went with the no build option, the operations would be a level of service F. It would fail. That being said, it is today a level of service F. So it is currently failing, and it would continue to get worse if we did nothing. But as I said, it doesn't cost anything to fix it. The no build option is the cheapest and least impactful. So just bear that in mind as you are looking at everything. I'm going to just pause for a second, and actually I'm going to bring it up here in just a minute here. Looks like Russell Dameron made a comment over here. So let me go down to this next one. So this is option 2. And one of the comments, almost jokingly, that we hear about all the time is, how do you convert 5 points to 4 points? And the simplest answer is you have to close one of the legs at the intersection. Given that Gringo Road and Laurel Road carry all of those trucks east and west, and Broadhead Road, northbound, southbound, is the main north and south road that's not either I-376 or down at the river. Those 4 legs really aren't very good candidates for closure, which leaves us with Heights Road. So you can see in this option, we have a cul-de-sac here. To get to and from Heights Road instead, if you follow these little blue and red skipped arrows, you can see that the thought process we had was allowing people to get to their homes and maybe some of these businesses here through School Street. School Street would probably need some improvements to get there. I don't know that this curve in particular up here at the corner is necessarily designed for anybody to do it at any sort of speed. But again, we would have to look into that more closely in like design. What I wanted to point out was Russell Dameron pointed out is closing this and providing a detour, but truthfully, a fairly lengthy detour could actually just end up with people taking cut-throughs in the CVS and McDonald's parking lots rather than reroute the whole way around. They may prefer just to, especially if maybe say you live in this area or that's your destination, maybe it's easier just to come down Heights Road and cut through McDonald's to get out and make this left turn right here instead of going the whole way around. So I think cut through traffic would be a consideration you would have to bear in mind if that were to happen. I do know for sure, for instance, this access point for CVS down here on Laurel Road is you're not supposed to be able to make left turns out of it. It's supposed to be a right in, right out. That being said, I don't know that I'll say limitations there, the concrete median is mountable. I don't know that would be necessarily enough to deter some people from trying it. sort of thing. So, again, please bear that in mind. I think that's an excellent point. In any case, as far as this option goes, one of the main benefits it has is it again fits in the existing right of way. Would not be any properties had to be taken or cut back, sort of thing. It additionally would help improve the pedestrian phasing, because right now, in particular, coming across Laurel with all these channelized right turns and then Heights, it is a little dangerous for pedestrians. So we could fix some of those pedestrian issues. All that being said, doing that, those impacts, the detours, etc., the level of service would improve from an F to an E, which is better, but it's still not all that great. Is the impact too much? That's up for you to decide. Let me know what you think about it. So again, just bear it in mind. We do, by the way, have these set up from least impactful to most impactful. So the next few options you see are going to get a little bit, I'll say, bigger in scale here. So this was option 2. Option 3 is a Route 151 realignment with a signal reconfiguration. So as you can see on your screen here, the chief thing that happens here is we take the existing signal from where it is right up here near Heights, and we push it to the south, just south of the Sunoco. What this does is it helps first to reduce the skew and hopefully some of the vertical curvature issues that are out there today along Gringo Road and Laurel Road. It again converts 5 points to 4 points. This benefit, or this option, I should say, has the added benefit of leaving Heights Road open. It is now a separate T intersection, completely away from the new 4 points intersection that you could get in and out of no problem. The downsides are, while this roadway could probably be sort of squeezed in, if you will, between the Sunoco and the property down here, if you look on the west side of Broadhead, there is some impacts here to properties. Several properties would have to be completely taken. Some of them are going to have a new intersection pretty much in their front door. So there are some impacts. The existing pavement that's there today to get to perhaps say like the vet clinic or some of these houses or over to the CVS or the Sunoco would still be there with some cul-de-sacs you could turn around. But those would be sort of that's more almost if you get lost than anything else. This option, as you can see at the bottom, allows us, because we moved everything to the south and we're looking at some right-of-way impacts, we were able to add a few extra lanes. If you remember, Southbound today is a single lane, and at this option, we would have 3 lanes, a left, a through, and a right. In Northbound, you have 2 lanes. Today, it's only 1. So some additional widening. What that does allow us to do is we can improve our level of service from an F all the way up to a B in the morning and a C in the afternoon. So really excellent operations, all things considered. But again, the flip side is right-of-way impacts, costs to construct and things like that. So again, bear that in mind. And then we've got one more option here for 5 points, which this one would, I believe, be the most impactful and probably the most costly. But this option is a quadrant roadway with Broadhead Road doing an overpass over Laurel Road. So what you have here is Gringo Road and Laurel Road would basically continue where they are today. Only as they come up the hill, they would actually tunnel under Broadhead Road and come out the other side. That would help ease some of that vertical, nature heading up the hill. You could sort of just bring it down and make that easier to go through there. It takes the traffic and it splits it up into 2 T intersections rather than 1 4-leg one. This still kind of shoots in here by the Sunoco. That should be over there. Behind the Sunoco, I should say, similar to the previous intersection, but now we don't have the impacts to these properties on the west side of Broadhead Road, which I think would be an added benefit. Heights Road, again, remains full access as a completely separate intersection. And one extra, let's say you're coming southbound on Broadhead and you didn't want to have to come down here and make a southbound left at this intersection, come here, make another southbound left, and then loop your way the whole way around. this option would include, or I should say could include, this slip ramp right here. So you can just come right down, essentially make a right turn and be on your way. The downside is that in order to accommodate that, you can see where this road goes. It goes right through the corner of this business right here. This property right here with all of these businesses, including the vet clinic right there, would most likely be adversely impacted by this option. So, however, similar to the 4 points option where we did shift everything to the south, because we can now fit a handful of extra turn lanes, and in particular, we've sort of split up the traffic and where it turns and how. This intersection on Broadhead goes from a level of service F up to a C, and the one over here on Laurel now operates as a B. So again, very good operations, all things considered. But as you can see, there's definitely a lot of impacts, a lot of costs associated with it. So these are all of the options we have on the table right now for 5 points. Once again, I am going to, in the chat box, go ahead and share the, oops, there we go. There we go. I just shared the link for the survey for this room here. It has all the options we talked about. The big ones, I'll say, at 5 points, as well as some of the smaller ones at the sort of surrounding intersections. So does anybody have any questions, comments, concerns about any of the options, 5 points, or any of those other intersections? Right, hearing none, I am briefly, just to make sure everyone's seeing it correctly, I do want to just quickly take a quick look at the actual survey that we have here. As we said, it goes from the top to the bottom. And what we're sort of looking for when we ask for feedback on any of these alternatives is essentially a scale of 1 to 5. So this isn't to say I like this alternative better than that alternative, or I only have to pick one. I mean, truthfully, you could like every option, you could dislike every option. But what we want to know is, specifically the sight distance and the southbound left turn lane on a scale of 1 to 5. What do you think? 1 is strongly dislike. Don't ever do this. This is the worst idea. And by the way, if you want to add in some comments, feel free to let us know. All the way up to strongly like, this is a fantastic idea. It's not too costly and it makes a lot of sense. Please do it, sort of thing. We have the same discussion for the bicycle connections that I mentioned off of Heights Road. We do have all of the options for 5 points available, including the no build. And the same thing, like I said, you don't need to say this is a 1 star for me because it's it's the no build and it's terrible, and all of the others, and this is a 2, this is a 3. If you like all of them, or you think maybe all of them are decent, they could be a 4 in your mind, or a 5 or a 3. You don't have to pick one or the other. They could all be 5s, they could all be 1s. If they're all 1s, by all means, leave us comments of maybe we should have considered some other options. What didn't we think about here? We are happy to listen. All the way to the south. And again, each of these options not only is it 1 to 5, but it has comments. So if you, for instance, we had a comment earlier. Oh, Matt Boyko is asking if the graphics are supposed to be visible in our version of the survey. Are they not? Because I thought they were supposed to, but if they are not visible, I can briefly check in with Jenny at Pashik, and she can give me some feedback on that one. The graphics are supposed
Ryan,
to.
I'm seeing your graphics on the survey.
Okay.
I can see it on your screen share, but I'm saying whenever I follow the link and pull up the survey, or there's supposed to be graphics on my end. I have it in Edge, if that makes any difference. I don't know.
They should be present. I don't know. I am on Chrome. I'm not sure if Edge makes a difference, but I wouldn't be surprised if Edge is the one that has issues.
Yeah.
Maybe if you have like Chrome or Firefox, or I don't even know what else is out there, but maybe if you have another one, maybe check that out, because I know the graphics are supposed to be there.
Anything but Internet Explorer, right?
that
Yeah.
built-in one that nobody wants to use anymore. That is a good point. I didn't even think about that. Let me wonder if I
I'll try it real quick and let you know if I have
Yeah,
any
let me
luck.
know. I might need to let Jenny know, like she could maybe on the because like we said, this survey is going to be up for a week and a half or so. Maybe we can just put it on the website, be like, hey, this is best viewed in Chrome or Firefox or something other than Edge. Let me know if that works for you. But yeah, I mean, I think the real thing that we want to hear about is not only is it a 1 to 5 for you, but specifically like the comment on the cut through that we got. That is I think a real consideration for the Heights Road closure option. I know me personally, if I live somewhere and someone said, hey, you have to hike, a quarter mile, half mile out of your way, and there was a cut through, I would at least take a look at it. That's just me personally. So, oh, okay. So still nothing, huh? Yeah. But you know what? Do me a favor, actually, if you wouldn't mind. If you do get a chance on like a personal computer, let me know if it is something that simple, because otherwise we might need to revisit how we distribute these surveys if they're just not working for some people. I'm going to make a note of that though. Just give me one quick minute. I'm going to jot that down. So since we had at least a little bit of a break in there, where we had at least a little bit of discussion, thoughts and opinions on any of the options that we've looked at so far? Anything jumping out at you that you like, don't like, or maybe some other considerations like, cut throughs or et cetera that we didn't consider?
I think you did a good job of explaining those. I don't think the public's gonna like this Heights Road option. I think we're gonna be looking at probably one of the more expensive options, unfortunately. But
I concur.
but we'll see. We'll see. I mean, I'm with SPC. I'm on the project committee, so I'm just kind of observing.
Sure.
I don't
sure.
have any real comment to give you other than I did bring up the survey, and I'm on my personal laptop and I've got it working in Chrome with your graphics showing.
Okay.
I'm not having any
So Matt, maybe like we were saying, maybe when you get a chance on like a personal computer, take.
Yeah, I just did. I think it's my pen. I'm on PennDOT's VPN, so it may be
Oh
something
yeah, I
on
see
our
your
end.
comment.
It might be some kind of bandwidth problem with that. So, yep.
I
I think
do-
it's okay.
I do know whenever I work remote and I plug in my my VPN, it definitely bogs down things that I wouldn't even think about, like some websites that I'm like, why are you giving me issues here? And it definitely gets a little goofy sometimes. So that is good to know. I'm just gonna actually jot that down because again, it may be worth mentioning. It's COVID. A lot of people are remote right now. That hey, if you have a VPN, you might have issues seeing the graphics here. Oh no, you're good. That wasn't a hijack. We're good. We want to make sure that we've actually got it set up so that people can give us feedback. Because I mean, if you can't see the graphics and you're honestly just seeing, how would you rate option 2 for 5 points, closing Heights Road and optimizing the traffic signal? If you can't remember it off the top of your head, what we were talking about and where the closures would go, I don't know how you give any really honest feedback on it. So. Definitely want to make sure that we can actually see what's going on here. So for everyone that is on the phone, that we've already kind of discussed that the public may have some comments on, the reroute and possibly cut through traffic and things like that. For some of the, I'll say, more impactful, anything jumping out in terms of, again, this is I'll say a fairly loose engineering sketch that we put together. It would need to be investigated further, either of these options. Is there anything, any properties that are maybe particularly noteworthy that we would want to avoid impacting one way or the other? Or, like we made sure that this cul-de-sac was the full, you can fit a WB67 through it, but obviously this one's a little bit smaller. Would that need to be consideration on both sides? Like, just general thoughts and opinions that maybe we didn't consider.
I guess one of the steps would be these commercial businesses. Some of these businesses are going to view some of these options as like, cutting down on their traffic flow or their access, so that's one thing that once we got into there, we'd probably want to have some idea there.
Yeah, for sure.
But I don't have any improvements to what you're showing here. I think just thinking about it from a money perspective, I think this tunnel concept would be tough from a funding standpoint. I don't know how much that's going to cost, but it'd probably be the best solution. Like anything else,
Yeah.
a lot of times we come across this, but no,
Yeah.
I haven't seen anything here that like I have any additional comments on or anything,
Sure. Yeah, and I think it was actually one of our, steering committee members that at our last steering committee meeting suggested a great separation. He tunneling through the hill essentially, and I think it goes back to the joke before of, well, how do you make 5 points 4 points? Well, that's easy. You just construct a tunnel at a quadrant road and make it into like 3 separate intersections instead of 1. So as we were joking earlier, if the solutions at 5 points were easy, they would have been done by now. And truthfully, it's a little bit of a pickle. And any option that you want to improve is going to, I think, have some impacts associated with it. So yeah, I think for sure that is something to consider. So
yeah, it'll be interesting to see what you glean from the survey.
yeah, I am too.
Location.
I am too. And I, like I said, I'm hoping anybody that ends up taking this survey, as I said a couple times now, doesn't look at this as I need to pick one option, but rather says individually each option, how would you rate it? I'm sure some of them, like, maybe this option without a tunnel is a 5-star for some person, but again, like maybe a quadrant road is a 4-star. The ultimate decision could come down to funding and impacts and things like that. But I'm hoping people don't look at this survey and say, I have to pick one. Because realistically, in this setup, you could pick all of them. You could say, yeah, they're all pretty good, except for maybe the no build. But, there are, I think, pros and cons to all of them. So that is the hope, that we can get some hopefully fairly robust feedback on these surveys. And the good news is, since we're leaving these surveys open for essentially a week and a half, that there's definitely people that aren't going to get a chance to be here tonight, or as I said earlier, these surveys don't need to be filled out right this second. Maybe you have a knee-jerk reaction on just one thing and you just want to quick snap provide your feedback, but you can have a little bit of time, especially assuming the graphics are visible for you, and you can probably just sit on this screen and just really look at, well, these are the problems, this is how we might fix it, here's what I think about the solutions, sort of thing. Really kind of get a chance to study it. So
No, the graphics tell the story. Graphics are really good and embedded in the survey. I think it's looking great.
So okay. All right. Anything else? Again, these are the options we've presented. Are there, let me put it this way. So you've seen the options we've presented. Any thoughts on maybe alternatives that we never even considered? Maybe you've have some, you're sitting at a restaurant one day and you had a pencil and your napkin and you started sketching 5 points because that's what you felt like doing in your free time. Any off the cuff ideas that anybody else might have that we maybe even didn't consider? Because we did consider a bunch of options, but a lot of them ended up sort of being sent by the wayside for various reasons. And then we had these few that made its way through to the public meeting here. Any other options, or I'll say any other considerations that would be worthwhile for us to consider?
Did anybody take a look at trying to possibly relocate Heights Road down to hit Laurel behind CVS? Now, I realize that'd be kind of a lengthy thing there, but in lieu of trying to send all that traffic back through School Street and is that all School Street? Those narrow roadways there.
Yeah. So that was, I think, when we went back to the whole, how do you make 5 points, 4 points again? I think that was one of the first options. And the issues, as always, if it were easy, it would have been done by now, is kind of any direction you might want to try to route Heights Road, you run into something. And this is what I was saying earlier, like, even though it's a little bit windy, it does make its way, Heights Road ultimately makes its way all the way over here. So while right in this area, which is where we're kind of looking, there's maybe not a ton of, I'll say, houses and stuff, realistically, it goes for a long way. So there are a lot of people that end up trying to use this. So if I zoom in on this area just a little bit further, the first option was, like you said, maybe we take it here and maybe somewhere right here. Maybe we make it like a 4-leg intersection and just shoot it down, around this house in here. That is a possibility. I think the issue we ran into is if I turn this way, you can see we're dealing not only with property impacts, but we're coming from up on a hill trying to get down. Not that it couldn't be done, but that is trying to thread the needle here between properties and the hill became, again, a little bit of a problem. If you go, scooch back up to the straight overhead view. The other thought I had was, well, we have this Juanita Street, which isn't exact, but it kind of comes in like, kind of close. Like, is there a way we can maybe connect school to Juanita and then bring Juanita across over here somewhere? And then we have that connection as a possibility. And it's the same idea. It's not only you're looking at properties, but again, I'm going to do this little angle thing. And you can see, like, here's not too bad, but there's this little valley in the middle. And almost anything aside from those two, which have sort of geographic issues, runs right into people's homes. So we did look at rerouting Heights and connecting it somewhere else. And we just ran into, I'll say, like, kind of brick wall after brick wall, which was kind of frustrating because it was like, well, then the next option, as we've shown, is, okay, well, we're just going to close it and good luck being rerouted, sort of thing, So that was, I think, the very first option we considered was, how do we reroute it? And we didn't have any good answers, unfortunately. I'm going to, one more time, I'm going to share the link to the survey. I'm not sure if anybody new pop in recently, but I want to share it one more time. I did just get a heads up from Heather, kind of coordinating things. We've only got about 4 or 5 minutes left. So if there is anything else, by all means, let's bring it up quickly. We can chat about it. The survey is there. It will be on the project website as well, and it'll be open until next Friday. So if you don't have the option to take it now, maybe your graphics aren't working, feel free to kind of take it home, do some homework. You've got plenty of time to review and provide feedback on it.
Now, do we just hit the leave room button now to head back to the main meeting, or is that what we're supposed to do?
Yeah, you can head out. you can head out pretty much anytime you want. I think if you leave
Okay.
this room, it will take you back to the main one. So
Thanks a lot. Good job.
thanks, Ryan.